What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy Jay, and I know what you're thinking. It's the same thing I was thinking when I decided to start this podcast. Really? We're going to do another podcast? I know, I get it. But this one, it's going to be a little bit different for me, and I'm going to explain why here in a second. Basically, I just want to have some fun, you know? If you know anything about me, you know I was in the music industry for quite some time, underground music, and since COVID hit, I haven't really had a whole lot to do, and obviously, if you know some of my backstory, I haven't had time to do a whole lot. But since Menace to Sobriety is no longer a band, I need something to keep me busy. I've got a lot of stories to tell. I've got a lot of people that I could bring in and have great conversations with, I think. I've got a lot of experience in entertainment, obviously. I've got a lot of experience in running shows. I've got so many stories I love talking about. And I know people get tired of hearing me talking about things at parties. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to start something where I can talk about what I want to talk about. Whether, topical right now at this point in time, it being late October as I'm recording this intro video, I could talk about how badly the Titans suck. That's a hot topic for me right now. I'm sure not a lot of people care about, but hey, it's my show. I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about. The one thing I will promise you, though, is you're not going to get the same old thing here that you would at other places. And this is what I mean. Obviously, we're going to talk about the same old stories you've heard about when it comes to certain guests, like the one I have today, the Blue Meanie. We're going to be reliving some history of his. So that's not what I mean. What I mean about the same old thing is you're not going to get the same old negativity here that you would some other places, or at least we're going to make a conscious effort to make sure that doesn't happen. For instance, no politics here at all, unless if it's in a form of discussion, like if somebody were to ask me, which I don't know why they would, if they were to ask me about my time when I used to butt heads with the city of Piqua all the time. Little things like that, but I'm not going to shove my political beliefs down your throat. I'm going to do everything I can to make this fun and uplifting, because I honestly think that we need a lot more of that these days. We're missing quite a bit of it. But anyway, I basically use this first half from every episode that I do from here on out. The first part, I guess I should say rather, is just going to be me bullshitting whatever's on my mind. Again, when it's in the spring, I'm sure I'll be talking about how bad the Reds suck at that point in time. Or just, whatever's happening in general. Pay-per-view reviews from wrestling. I feel like maybe that might be something I might do. Maybe after a big show like a Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble or something, I'll do a little pre-game episode before each official episode or something like that. Who knows? Sky's the limit. I'm really not even sure yet how often I'm going to drop this episode. Again, the official release date, and this is very loose, but it's going to be in the beginning of January of 2024. So this is just, again, a preview episode. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet. We're going to put this out, see how things go, and then we'll go from there. But I don't know. I'm thinking right now, I'm thinking bi-weekly, maybe weekly to start off with, because we got a lot of cool guests that I've got scheduled coming up. Not going to release the official first guest yet. Not going to do that, because that one's going to be special. So I'm not going to release that yet, or any of the other guests that I have lined up. We're not going to talk about it just yet. Soon, though. If you know me, you know how much I like to do the coming soon tease. It's just, it's kind of my thing. But anyway, yeah, so that's it. This is going to be short and sweet on this one. I hope you guys enjoy what is coming your way. Again, a preview episode, a conversation I had earlier with the Blue Meanie. I had a great time talking to him. I've talked to him before in the past in Crossing, and man, he's a real down-to-earth guy, real humble dude. I really think you're going to enjoy it. So yeah, let's get to the nitty-gritty. But first, before we do that, all right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martin's in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martin's has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martin's. I've always loved going to Crazy Martin's ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martin's. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the pregame episode of The Row Show. I am your host, J Row, whatever you want to call me. He's all good with me. Today, I have a very, very special guest with me, an ECW original, Job Squad alumni, EWO's The Blue Guy, and who I think needs to be a member of the 2024 WWE Hall of Fame in Philadelphia at WrestleMania this year. The Blue Meanie. Meanie, how the hell are you today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for that introduction, by the way. That was very nice. Thank you.
Hey, no, just a heads up. I used to be a front man for a band, so I know how to do intros. I'm good like that.
I feel the vibe.
Well, thanks for very much for joining us today, man. We chatted a little. Yeah, for sure. We chatted a little bit before I pressed record. I enjoy watching your stuff on ad-free shows. Cheap plug for you, Conrad. I always enjoy listening to what you've got to say. You were one of my favorites growing up. I didn't really get a chance to see you much as an ECW member because even though I do live in the Dayton, Ohio area, my mom would have slit my throat had she ever caught me watching some of the stuff that went on. So, it is what it is. But watching you and Al Snow, it was one of my favorite parts of the Attitude Era. So I always start off anybody I talk to in the wrestling industry by at least saying thank you for the contributions that you've made to the industry. It is much appreciated to fans like myself.
Oh, thanks, man. I trained like an hour north of you in Lima, and
okay,
I wrestled in Dayton a few times before I was the Blue Meanie, just starting out. So very familiar with the area. If you could ever do me a favor, drive up to Lima and have a QP burger for me. So
it's funny because when I first talked to you during the ad-free shows interview, then this was what 2020, I think, when you did your first one or something like that, 2021. You gave me the exact same advice, and I still haven't done it. But I've been to Lina, but I've still never ate a QP burger. I need to.
Dude.
I know,
dude. It's my favorite.
That's awesome. 2 cheap plugs, and we're 2 minutes into this. It's awesome. Yeah. Well, Dayton, Ohio, as you've already said, you have a lot of history there. In general, wrestling has had a lot of unsung history in Dayton for sure. Growing up this far, about 40 minutes. From all the action, we got to witness things like Bret Hart returning to the WWE and confronting Shawn Michaels happened in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
The ECW Heatwave incident happened in Dayton, Ohio at the Hare Arena. That's a very popular one between my friends because obviously a lot of us were there. NWO, WCW sold out. I think it was 98 was in Dayton, and that was the legendary Bret Hart versus Ric Flair match. I didn't get to go there, but just the fact that it happened at my hometown is kind of cool. So, and it's kind of cool to know that you have a lot of history in this area too, starting off.
Yeah, when I was training with Al, he would just run events. Al Snow, my trainer. Sorry, he would do a lot of events in the area, and we did I forget what the name of the school was, but we did a school down there in Dayton and wrestled there. Dayton's also the first place where the first ever Hulk Hogan Ric Flair match happened. That's
I didn't know that.
That was a dark match, and it's supposed to be somewhere there in the vaults. So I mean, and I think it was a last second thing, and they had it was a dark match before TV taping or something like that.
I had no idea. See, you learn something new every day. Well, there's definitely one place that you have a lot of familiar history with, and it's kind of the topic of discussion that I kind of wanted to talk to you about today because this incident really catches my attention, and it's just the way that it played out. And this is at the place you're familiar with is the Hammerstein Ballroom. And the specific thing I want to talk to you about is specifically ECW One Night Stand 2005. So before we really get into the weeds of it, when you did that event, other than what we're obviously going to go get into, what was the overall experience like backstage before One Night Stand even went on the air? Was it a pretty good vibe backstage? I know I'd heard rumors about tussles between, I think it was Don Marie and Francine had some issues if I remember correctly. But other than that, was the vibe okay or?
No, everything was fine. I didn't. I don't know anything about that, but yeah, it was a good vibe. It was just like leading up to it, I was just waiting. There was words of the ECW reunions. But Jeremy Borash went and did his with which was 2 nights before with Hardcore Homecoming, and then I got booked for that, and I did recorded the Forever Hardcore the interview for the Forever Hardcore documentary that came out as a companion piece, kind of like to uh, Rise and Fall ECW. Those are two good companion pieces, along with Bob Our City, which is another great ECW documentary.
Mhm.
Just sitting around waiting to see what happens with the WWE one. And it turns out they didn't have contact information on me. So they once Tommy Dreamer got in touch with me, he said, yeah, they wanted to have the BWO on the show, and that was it. That we just we that got booked, and I think 3 weeks before the pay per view, and you get to the building. It was a really good vibe. Just I drove up there with the referees, John Finnegan, Jim Malno. I rode up with Francine, um, and one of the ring announcers, Bob Ortiz. And we got there. Everything was cool. And it was just good to see everybody and have a good time. And uh, see a bunch of guys I hadn't seen in ages, like Edge and Christian, and a lot of the roster who I hadn't seen in maybe 5 years. So overall, it was like a high school reunion.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback on what you said on something real fast. The Forever Hardcore documentary, I was actually watching it last night on YouTube just to kind of get reacclimated with some things. And I mean, I have the physical disc somewhere around here. I ordered it shortly after it came out, and absolutely excellent. I know everybody talks about Rise and Fall of ECW. Forever Hardcore, in my opinion, I think Jeremy Borash did an incredible job with that entire.
Oh,
It's kind of like you said, companion piece. Absolutely, it's the opposite side for anybody that hasn't, watched it before. You get the ECW One Night Stand, ECW Rise and Fall ECW DVD. Everyone who wasn't included in that is basically in Forever Hardcore. It's amazing. I highly recommend it as well.
yeah, man.
Um, yeah, for sure. And you did a great job as well. But somebody who was also booked to be there that night was a man named John Bradshaw Layfield. Also goes by JBL. He was supposed to be there as an invader from SmackDown. Did you see him at all backstage before the event went on?
Yeah, I said hello to him that day. Like I said, the vibe was fine. It was just everybody. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And that was it. Like I said, we seen everybody that day, and we went over a lot of the stuff that was going to happen on the show. We rehearsed the stare off between the ECW roster, WWE roster, and stuff like that. And yeah, saw everybody that day. Stone Cold. Well, I saw Stone Cold a little bit later, but yeah, uh, everybody, Dudley's.
Yeah. Okay, so show goes on without a hitch. Everything's fine. Everything's jiving. Everything's cool. And then somehow we ended up to this. So, why don't you go ahead and explain what exactly happened when we got into the ring that led to you looking like this on national television on a pay per view?
Well, it's the thing I've been talking about for the last I don't know 20 years. It's I think the secret's out there that me and Bradshaw had an issue back in 98 to 2000, which we've since worked out, and we're friends now to this day. And just people just keep talking about it. But yeah, we just had an issue. I We didn't get along in WWE from when I was in there from 98 to 2000, and when I left, I called him a bully. And I I guess when you say something, you say it once, and then by the time it makes make the rounds, and the game of telephone where people just say it and then they add their own flavor onto it. By the time it got to him, it was probably something totally different, other than me saying he was a bully, and he took exception to it, and we had a fight on pay-per-view. You know,
Yeah. So it goes down. He ends up. I think you've said before in the past that he was just throwing live rounds. He thought maybe you threw one at him first, or did
no,
you
if
guys
you watch
ever?
the footage, that didn't happen. No, because we were just facing off, and I was paired off with one of the Bashams, and I already had 8 stitches in the back, or staples in the back of my head, from the night before, 2 nights before, at Hardcore Homecoming, and I got hit from behind right on those staples. You couldn't have thrown a better punch if you're going to, hit somebody. Yeah, he hit me, turn around. I We used to start fighting. I mean, it's right there on tape. You know, back in, was it 2004, 2005? But
Yeah,
yeah,
we're getting close to 20 years. It's crazy to think about.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So after the event's over, the scuffle happens backstage. What's the first kind of reactions? Like, is it kind of like a what the fuck moment once you all get back there? Is it, hey, that was a good, thank you for the match or whatever? Or what happens after you guys get backstage at this point?
No, we go to the back, and Johnny Ace goes, initially Johnny Ace thought I'd gotten collar myself. I was like, no. And then once he saw me, that I was, busted open. He, and I gave him the cliff notes, like I'm doing right now, of everything that happened, leading up to that. And he's like, oh, that's unacceptable, that we don't do that here. And, you know, he apologized. So they got me, down to where the doctors are. They stitched me up, and Hebner came and found me and doubled my pay, and that was about it. So, and
Oh,
then
nice.
go home. I start doing, like, back then they're called blogs and stuff like that, and just talking about it. And WWE reached out and had me go out to Sacramento with, on the SmackDown Raw Super Show in Sacramento on July 4th, 2004, 2005. And then me and John got into a room, and we talked about it. And, we worked out our issues, and I said, hey, I listed everything that, I said he did. And to his, credit, he said he didn't remember it, which, I mean, that was several years before. So, but we worked it out, and we went and had a match on SmackDown, and, worked it out like two men do. It's, you know, uh, you could sit here and hold a grudge and be bitter, or you could just talk it out and squash it and get on with life. And that's what we did. And, we're still friends to this day. He got me on, I was just on his podcast recently with Gerald Briscoe. He almost got me into the Royal Rumble here in Philadelphia. Uh, the Not the last one, the one before that, but it was down there. It was down to, between me and Bubba Ray Dudley, and they picked Bubba Ray Dudley, which is awesome. But he did a lot to help me after that. So, the story sucked, but in the end, it was actually, there's a little happy ending to it, so to speak.
Mhm. So when they call you to do this match with John, did you feel it was kind of like Joe Pesci in The Goodfellas, where they walk into the room and open the door, and when you guys have your meeting, or was it just kind of like, hey, let's just put it out on the table, or
Oh,
how
no,
did you guys end up talking it out?
no, it's just Dreamer reached out to me and said, "Hey, well, initially, for shoot, they were supposed to have the BWO come back. There's talks about
Hmm.
the BWO coming back. Stevie Richards was going to go from the show Velocity to SmackDown, and Nova Mike Bucci, who was in the office, was like, "Hey, why don't we just have him come back with the BWO? SmackDown colors are blue and white. BWO colors are blue and white. It'd be just a, even if it's a couple month thing, I don't think, it would hurt. So that was the talks of it. And then like the incident happened and, we just, that just expedited it. So they brought me back. Uh, Dreamer reached out and said, "Hey, we want to bring you in for the BWO thing that we were talking about, One Night Stand." I was like, "All right." So I get to the show and they're like, "You're working Bradshaw tonight." I was like, "Okay." And then, Johnny Ace is like, yeah, you're going to, hit the moonsault, pin him 1, 2, 3. I was like, "Does John know about this?" He's like, and Johnny Ace is like, "Oh yeah, he loves it. Sure, yeah." So JBL walks in and is like, "Hey, you want to talk?" I was like, "Sure." And then we go off to, we're backstage and we're, looking for a room to talk. And, the further, we went into the building, I was like, "Oh, okay." So if we get in this room, we go in this room here and there's plastic on the floor, I'm going to run, right?
Right.
But no,
Sure.
he just locked the door behind him, turned around and said, "We can talk or we go fight." I was like, "Well, John, I never wanted to fight in the first place. I was a fan of his work. And just, it's unfortunate everything that happened, but, just, we stood there and talked and, at the end of the day, he's like, "Hey, let's go make some money." I said, "Okay. Um, don't threaten me with a good time. Let's go make money off
Right.
it." And we went and had a really good match on SmackDown and, we came back
And then
and
this happens.
yeah, 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 the chair shot happened. I hit him with a DDT, did the moonsault, and we had the run in with Batista to help, at the end,
Mhm.
but we, and from that, it just turned into a little run with the BWO versus Mexicools, which was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Juventud, Super Crazy, and, Psychosis, against the
Yeah.
BWO at, Great American Bash '05. There's a missing decade in there somewhere,
Yeah.
but, yeah, that it became a cool experience and it, relaunched, revitalized my career as far as, you know, uh, I'd gone through a rough time leading up to that, just, running shows and, trying to, reinvent myself somehow. And all it turns out to be is I just needed to be the Blue Meanie. And I found that through this incident, I just figured, hey, you know what? There was nothing wrong with me in the first place. You might as well just be the Blue Meanie. So
Yeah. And I think what fascinates me about this story is something that kind of sucks turned into something that's kind of, like an almost an urban myth among wrestling fans. Like people don't highlight the moment that this led to that SmackDown match, but the fact that I think that JBL is such a good he's so good at getting heat, especially with the IWC. Everyone either goes back to this because they either got a chance to see you again, or the fact that they got a chance to see Stevie Richards beat the shit out of his head with that chair. I mean, that chair shot. Many times I'll just be going back and just watching random clips, and I'll pull up that one just to watch it. And the fact that what was really the highlight of that moment wasn't even really Batista coming out to further that storyline, because it was him and JBL were in a storyline at that specific moment, weren't they?
yeah,
I think it was. Yeah. Okay. So people really don't even talk about that. They just talk about, that chair shot and that moment in general. So something really crappy turned into something kind of cool for the fans, whether you go back and look at it just because, hey, like I said, it was a cool moment, or the fact you got to, watch JBL get pummeled. Either way it goes, it's one of those cool little nuggets in history for wrestling fans, I think. And that's why I'm really enamored with stuff like that. Even like what I was talking about, the heat wave incident. That's not something that a whole lot of people talk about, but it's a cool little nugget in time. So that's one of the things why I kind of wanted to revisit this with you and get some more inside information on it, is because yes, it seems like it is something that again you talked about for the last 20 years, but man, that's something that's going to go down in infamy with the people that really pay attention. I still talk about it quite a bit with some of my old school ECW homies.
yeah. And the thing is that the chair shot really wasn't intended like that. It was just John's so tall. He's
Sure.
6'6", and even Stevie was like, "Hey, man," we talked about the chair shot in the back, and he was just like, "Hey, can you like maybe be on one knee or just squat down?" Because he went to do the chair shot, and it was just a mistimed thing, just and we all felt bad about it in the back because we got to the back and he's busted open, and we meet him at the curtain just to say, "Hey, sorry about that." And he was like, "Hey, man, things happen." John was like, "Hey, man, things happen." And then he, said to us, "Hey, if you want, just go into the internet and just say it was a shoot, and say it was a receipt." I was like, "All right, no problem." And just to continue to the thing, and it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, we turned a shoot into a storyline, and it was unfortunate, and Stevie got a little bit of heat for that, but to Bradshaw's credit, he stuck up for Stevie. When some of the people thought that Stevie was shooting on him, with the chair shot. It's unfortunate all around. You never want to go in the ring with the intentions of purposely hurting somebody, which is what my
Right.
initial point was. I didn't like how I was being treated in 98 to 2000, you know, eh, on a handful of incidents. I thought, there's some liberties being taken, but, you know, uh, to go back and, squash the beef and then have the chair shot
Yeah.
happen, it's just like, y- y- you don't want to be malicious. The guy just, apologized and, is willing to work with you. You never want to betray somebody's trust in the ring, which we weren't, but so it was and he realized it was an accident, but you know, it is what it is. And, we got past it like grown men and moved on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like you said, to JBL's credit, for a long, long time, I was not a fan of his until I got it. That, and I think that's where people kind of get hung up on. They see him as the
Well, he's a
yeah,
heel, so that's kind of his job. So
exactly, exactly, and not only that, I've worked with guys in the past, whether it be on the job site. I've toured around the country multiple times with my band. I've met plenty of guys out there who are bullies until you push back. Like they want to see that you can push back, And I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the vibe I get when I listen to him, in interviews and stuff. It's not that he's a bully. He's going to push you because he wants you to push back at him. That's how I perceive him.
yeah, just if I could put my 50-year-old body, my brain in my 20-something-year-old brain back then, I would just said, "Hey, let's." The conversation we had in '05 in Sacramento, I probably should have just had with him in 98 to 99, like, "Hey, man, what's the deal? Do you hate me? What's
Yeah.
going on?" And I could have easily just squashed everything as well. But, when you're young in the business and you're not trying to rock the boat and, you're trying to, support a family, I support my mom and grandmom at the time. You wanna do the least amount to cost you your job, so, I kept my mouth shut, ears closed, mouth ears open, mouth shut, and moved on. So, when they had released me, so I was like, "Ah, he's a bully," and that was it.
Yeah.
Other people have had their issues with him, and that's between him and them. I've worked mine out. We're cool. We'll randomly text here and there about sports, especially football or, whatever's going on. But, he's done, he's done right by me and, past that incident. And, we're cool.
Yeah. I wish they'd bring him back or somebody would bring him in to do commentary again. That
Yeah.
really when I started to hear him do commentary on SmackDown was when I was like, "Oh, he's the same person right now that he was on that's when it really started to click. Like he's not a dick. He's just so good at what he does. He makes you think he's a dick because as you said, he's a heel, but that's how good he is. He gets that real heat and he has way too much shit on the IWC, I think. I mean, granted, everybody does. It's the IWC. But it's yeah,
Yeah. Just the internet, I don't hate the internet wrestling community. I loved it. I've been a part of it, just, even the early days of AOL and stuff like that before message boards and so, well, AOL had message boards, but a little kernel of something gets out, and then, like I said, people expound on it. Like when I called
right.
JBL a bully, by the time it got back to him through however many people, it probably became something far worse than what I initially said. You know, you put something out there on the internet, somebody puts out a kernel of the of a thing that happened, and by the time somebody tells everybody else what happens, it's blown out totally out of proportions. Um, you know, as a fan, I was training. I was a fan. I was reading the newsletters, and I was reading the Torch. I was reading the Observer, and all that stuff. And I thought I knew how the wrestling business worked. And then I started training with Al Snow and talking to him about how I thought certain things worked. And I soon quickly learned it's not like that at all. You know, it's just, you know, and I don't fault anybody for you know, wanting to know the behind the scenes. You know, just, yeah, everybody's fascinated what goes on behind the scenes in any industry. You know, you got, you know, programs in football and baseball talking about everything that's going on in the locker room. You know, the game behind the game. So, and same with wrestling. You know, people want to know what's going on. People want to, you know, get a peek behind the curtain. And a lot of times it's probably kind of boring. You know, what people think's going on and what's actually going on, you know?
Yeah, I tell people all the time because we'll have discussions and they'll ask me, "Oh, you've been to a lot of," because I've been all over the country multiple times, and people will say, "Oh, you've seen a lot of cool stuff, and you probably partied in a lot of cool places." No, I've seen a lot of cool exits, and I've been to a lot of backstage green room areas where everyone's just kind of sitting around. There's not much going on. You know, movies make it seem way better than what it is.
Yeah.
I think I used to really pay attention to dirt sheets myself until 83 Weeks came out. And that's when Eric Bischoff got my attention when it came to the podcasting wrestling world. And then I got into something to wrestle with. And then Jeff Jarrett's My World came out. And I keep hearing all these, you know, and I don't disparage anybody for trying to make a dollar. But when that many people come out and dispel these, you know, myths like Mabel was the third man as the big one on 83 Weeks or whatever, that's when I have to go, okay, there's something off here. And it's probably, as you keep alluding to, telegraph, telewrestler. I'm sure that's probably exactly, you know, what happens to a lot of these circumstances where it's just rumor and innuendo over and over and over again. But from that point on, it's kind of like anything I read now, I take with a grain of salt. I mean, just look what's happened in the last year with all the reporting about Drew McIntyre's on his way out. No, he never was. Bray Wyatt's upset with creative. No, he had health issues. You know, and and people just run with it. They know that a lot of these things are inaccurate, but they just go with it anyway, and it creates a lot of extra bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, but it's just, you know, and you know, there's people out there who feed information to Dave Meltzer who probably have an axe to grind and just want to, you know, put something out there, and he reports it, and he's the one who ends up looking silly, you know, by people giving him misinformation, you know, and who knows whatever they're giving him isn't second or third or fourth hand information. So by the time it gets to him and he types it out, it's become this other thing, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know you got a tight schedule to keep. I won't keep you much longer. I just wanted to say, again, thank you for everything you've done within the industry. Thank you for talking to me today. If there's anything you would like to plug, floor is yours.
Hey, I too have a podcast, Mind of the Meanie, which drops every Monday morning wherever you get your favorite podcast. So go to mindofmeanie.com. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/mindofmeanie, where you can watch us record the show each and every week. If you would like to support the Blue Meanie, go to prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie. Get yourself a BWO shirt. If you would like to, you know, book a cameo, go to cameo.com/Blue Meanie BWO and do the videos over there and all that stuff. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm on all forms of social media at Blue Meanie BWO. I try to make it easy for everybody. So I still call it Twitter. It's still Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Not so much on TikTok, but I can't figure that out. But at Blue Meanie BWO on all forms of social media.
Awesome. And when you're on stage in Philadelphia doing your Hall of Fame speech, remember me, my man. Thank you very much, Meanie. I appreciate you, brother.
Have a great day, and thanks for having me on, my friend. Take care.